Hey guys, welcome to another video. This video is a very different one to the usual videos that I make. In this video, I'm going to be doing a critique of CFOP Cubing. CFOP Cubing is a YouTuber dedicated to putting out videos that have inspiring, fun, and even humorous cubing content. He's got some pretty cool tricks on his channel, and honestly, I even learned something about the 5x5 that I didn't know, like a little nifty trick that you can do, which startled me to no end because 5x5 is one of my favorite events. So go check him out, show him some love. His channel is awesome, and we're gonna get straight into this video. Wait, nearly forgot. I need to tell you something. The GoPro is actually unable to be fixed. There is something inside the GoPro which has split, which is stopping the batteries from registering. As a result, it now needs to be hooked up to a power source at all times, meaning underwater filming is completely out of the question. However, using an external power source that charges phone thingies, we'll be able to do some outside filming. So yeah, I just thought I'd let you know underwater videos are now completely off the charts. So, Anyways, let's get into the video. So, this first scramble is nasty. I can see something that might work on yellow, but this is just one nasty cross solution everywhere. So, what CFOP Cubing chose to do is started with the green on the front and the white on top, and he chose to do a green cross. So we started by inserting this piece, and we did a U at the same time, like this. Then we did an L. Next, he rotated and then used this finger to do an F prime. And then we did R, U, R prime, F2, and that inserts the next cross piece, before rotating and then inserting this cross piece with a U prime, R prime, F prime, R, and then a D2 to finish the cross. Going back to this cross solution, I think that it wasn't the best. There were a lot, and by a lot, I mean a lot of moves in it. Something that could have potentially been better in terms of building a green cross would have been to put the orange over the white piece and insert these two like this. Do a D, and then F, L, F prime, D2. Not D2, just a D. And that would have done the cross the same way. But anyway, your cross solution wasn't too bad in general, and you did get it done rather quickly, and you did see your first F2L pair right away, which was nice. Now, this F2L pair, you solved actually in a pretty good way. First, you did a U and then rotated, and then pulled your piece up here like so, pairing it up, and then inserted it into the back. An alternative way to solve this F2L pair into the back without a rotation would be to do a U the same way that you did, but then instead of rotating and then pairing it up, what we're going to do is we'll do an R prime, U prime, R2, U, R2 prime, U prime, R, and that will solve it into the back. But anyways, the solution you did where you solved it into the back was a good one because you solved a back left slot. Now your next F2L pair you spotted pretty quickly and did it in a very good way, like this. That was awesome, spot on. And then you spotted this F2L pair, rotated, and then solved this a very good way. Next, you had a back left slot and you had this F2L pair. Now this is a horrible case to get. So to avoid having done that, what you could have done is you could have rotated, when you got this F2L pair up here, you could have rotated like this and solved it into the back. And that would have put this case onto the front where you can do a few things with it. But anyways, from here, You saw it, rotated, paired it up, and did a U2, rotated and inserted. This isn't a bad solution, it was done pretty quickly, but it's not the best solution that could have happened. A better solution for this particular case would have been to do one rotation, giving you this certain F2L case here, which can be solved with an F, U2, RU R prime, U, F prime. When you spotted your F2L pair up here, you would have been able to rotate and go straight into it quickly, and that would have been done. But anyway, going back to what you did, you got left with this OLL case, and you did a U2 and then a U. Now, that's not too bad, but that is something I would recommend trying to get out of the habit of. So just take a second more to recognize your OLL case, and then your OLL algorithm was actually really good. It was M prime, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U2, R, U prime, and then it was a wide R prime, R. That's actually not the OLL algorithm that I used for that particular case at all. And so I was pretty surprised to find that you had a better algorithm than me. Anyways, then you were left with Y perm, U2 AUF, done. 15.72 seconds. Going back to the OLL case that you got, the algorithm that I used to solve this case actually is technically 2-look. It's where I do F, sexy move, F prime, U, F, sexy move, F prime. For me, this algorithm has always been fast enough that I haven't really needed to change it. For your second solve, the scramble that was applied to the cube did not match the scramble up on the screen, and so I wasn't actually able to do a critique for this solve. So going on to the third solve, we've got this scramble, and you started with a yellow cross, and this solve was 11.9 seconds. It was 65 moves, and you had a turn speed of 5.46 turns per second. So that's actually really good considering what your cross was. So let's take a look at what your cross is. You have got this piece here, and this piece here. First, you did an R, U prime, and then you did an R prime, putting in the orange piece relative to the green, U2, putting your blue one in. After that, you rotated, did a U prime, and then rotated twice more, and then inserted this piece like this. And then you rotated back up and did a D2. This cross was honestly one of the most creative solutions I have ever seen, but I honestly think that this cross could have been so much better, and I'll explain why. So going back to your yellow cross, what you had here were these pieces, red, orange, blue. The way that I would have gone about solving this cross would have been to put my red piece over the yellow. Well, first, I would have held the cube at this angle, then I would have done a U, L prime, a B and an F prime, and that puts these pieces into place. Then I would have done a D2 R prime, and that would have solved your cross in far less moves. So your first F2L pair that you did was your green and red slot pair, and you rotated so you could insert it into your front left, which is not a bad starting spot. And so what you did was you paired it up like this, did a U2, and as you did that, you saw this, and when you inserted this, you immediately brought this around and paired it up like this and rotated and inserted it into the back, which was really good. Then you did a U prime, saw these two, U prime, paired them up, rotated once again and inserted it into the back. Then you just had this case, which can be solved with a triple inverse sexy move. This was actually a really nice F2L, to be honest. Going back to the start of your F2L, the way that I would have begun this solve would have probably been by solving this green and orange pair into my back right slot, like this. And then I would have probably gone into solving my green and red pair like that. So slowing that down a bit, I have got my pair here, and if I try to pair it up like this, it's going to be incorrect. So what I'm actually doing is I'm doing an L, U, L2, U prime, L2, U, L prime. And then that would have set me up for this case here, which I would have then solved with a rotation like that. And then finally I have this case, which I could have cancelled into like that. Now the chances are highly likely that I wouldn't have seen the cancellation at high speed, but I would have known that I had my pair coming up here that I can solve with a sledgehammer. So it's just something to be mindful of. No matter how fast you can get, always be looking for ways you can cut down on your move count. So in this case, solving this would have been not as efficient as solving it like this. Anyways, going back to your solve, after you finished your F2L, you had this OLL case, which is a super nice one. Line it up and then just do a fat soon. And then you had a JA perm. Now you started to do the algorithm, but then stopped and realized you had to align it. So you did a U2 and then did your algorithm. Now this algorithm is one that I have seen before from another solver. And I have to say it's quite cool, but that algorithm for the J-perm really throws me off if I have to do a certain AUF. For example, if I have the JA perm at this angle and I try to do this algorithm, doing my AUF becomes extremely clumsy, and more often than not, I'll miss it and completely fail to AUF. This algorithm gave me so much trouble with my AUFs that I ended up swapping algorithms entirely. The JA algorithm that I now use goes like this: R prime, U2, R, U, R prime, Z, R2, U, R prime, D, R, U prime. This algorithm does have a rotation in it, but it can get extremely fast, and the AUFs are easy because you can do it with your wrist like this because of the rotation. So for instance, if I have the J-perm here and I need to AUF with a U2, it becomes a lot more simple. For your fourth solve, you decided to do a white cross, and the white cross is extremely easy on this scramble. We've got our red cross piece already relative to the blue in its correct spot, then we've got our orange and green, both relative as well. You started out with your white on the front and the blue on the top, and you did a D prime, rotated, D, R prime, F2, D2. So in my pre-inspection, the thing that I noticed straight away is that there is an F2L pair right here. And so what I want to do with my cross is preserve this F2L pair. So what I would have done is started with the cross at this angle and done a U prime to start, R prime, then I would have done a D, F prime, D, F prime, and then as I finish off my cross, I would have done a U2 and then just inserted the F2L pair right away. And then I've got this F2L pair here, which I can then rotate and solve into the back, followed by this F2L pair here, and I can then insert it, and then this one paired itself up. Anyways, going back to your cross solution, there is something that you could have done to improve your solve a little bit, and that would have been, after you do this, rotate, do your D and R prime, it would have actually been better for you to not do that R prime and do the F2 like this. That would have put your orange piece in ready to be solved and put your green piece here, so that when you do your D2 and align your cross, you can do your L, and then you've got an F2L pair preserved into the back ready to be inserted into the front, and your other F2L piece is actually paired up in the process, and then you can just do your F2L as normal. Anyways, going back to what you did, your cross was good, and then your first F2L pair was also good. You saw this one here, and so you solved it by pairing it up, and then inserting it like that. That was a great solution. The next pair that you went for immediately was your red and green. Now this isn't a bad pair to go for because it's nice to finger trick, but it would have been better to go for your green and orange right here, and that would have solved another back slot, giving you just your right slots to worry about. But anyways, this is a nice pair to solve, and you solved it like this, and then this was right here, and you saw it immediately, and you went into solving it, and you brought this pair out at the back. And I was super happy to see you solved it, not rotating, and you solved it with L moves into the back. That's the best possible thing that you could have done in this situation. Anyways, then you had this O case, which you solved with a really impressive algorithm. I have never seen this algorithm before. You did a wide F, R, wide F prime, pulling out this F2L pair, and then you just inserted it into the back with a special F2L trick. I was honestly speechless when I saw that. I use a completely different algorithm. I'll show you that at the end of the solve. Next, you had a little bit of hesitation and you misrecognized this as an F perm. So you did a U2, and then you did the F perm algorithm, stopped, and then you had a Y perm. And so you did the Y perm, and you finished with a 14.24. Going back to this OLL case, the algorithm that I use for it goes like this. I start with the C facing me, and then I do an R, U, R prime, U prime, and I rotate down, and I do a D, R prime, U, R, and then I do a U prime, D, like that. And when done fast, it is actually a pretty nice algorithm. So that's just something to keep in mind. I've tried out your algorithm. And I can say now that I find it pretty hard to finger trick. Anyways, your solve was pretty good. Your F2L was nice, but your PLL was just simple mix up. And while it might have cost you the solve, it didn't really affect your average too badly. For your final solve, you decided to go for a yellow cross, and I can see why immediately. All 4 cross pieces are right here, and it's pretty easy to see that the cross won't take too much effort. What you did was you started out by doing an R prime, B prime, R prime, and that put in these 2 pieces relative to each other, and then you did an F2 inserting your orange, D2, R. This was a great cross, and it worked really well. It didn't leave you with many options for your F2L though. However, you recovered spotting this F2L pair pretty quickly. Well, it's not an F2L pair yet, but what you did was you did an R prime, U prime, R, U2, then you had this F2L case which you split up like this and paired it up. You did a U, rotated and solved it into the back. I think that was a little bit of a lengthy solution. You could have done a double inverse sexy at the back like this to pair it up, and then you could have rotated and inserted it. Anyways, after you solved your F2L pair into the back, you had this F2L case here, and you solved it with an L prime, U2, L, pairing it up, and then you just inserted it, and then you had this F2L case. Now this F2L case it takes a little bit of thought. What you did was you did a U2 and then a U, and then you solved it without a rotation, which is brilliant. You did a sledgehammer and then inserted it. 2 other ways that you can solve this specific F2L case without a rotation is to insert this corner with an R, U, R prime, then do a U2, and then pair it up and then insert it. This can get quite fast. And so the final solution that you can do goes like this. So what I am doing is I'm doing an M, U, wide R, U prime, wide R prime, and then a U prime, M prime. Anyways, your solution for this F2L case was a good one. And then you had this F12 case here. And so you solved that like this. Which is a good solution, but it's better to try and avoid having your back left slot unsolved when you get to your last F12 pair, because generally it'll just take longer. Then you had OLL, and you solved that with F, double inverse sexy, F prime. The algorithm that I use for this case is very similar. It's just with it pointing the other way, and I do a wide F and a double sexy, which for me is a tiny bit faster, but it doesn't really matter. Then you had a GB PAM. And that was the solve. So to sum up, your solves are on the verge to becoming sub 12. You have amazing F12. It is really good. Your crosses are the biggest things that I would suggest working on. Trying to cut down the move count on some of your crosses and certainly avoiding rotations. Your algorithms are really nice and your look ahead is good too. Also, one of your solves was done on a green cross, and that is also really good because that means you have more options open depending on which scrambles you get. And that's a big advantage over me. I'm only a white-yellow solver, so I can't take advantage of other cross colors. And yeah, your solving is really good. You're on the track to being sub 12. Keep it up, keep practicing, and yeah. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have learnt something new, and have a great day, everybody. Bye.